Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk More on Monday. As always, I'm your podcast host, Chloe, and we are continuing our Issue 10 Contributor Chat series today. One of our most requested topics is to get with our contributors and find out the stories behind the stories, how our magazine comes together, what's behind the pieces that get published. So that is how we started our contributor chat series, and we have been doing it for 10 issues now. So we're really happy to be able to cap off at 10, have some really amazing contributors, and who knows what may come next for more, but we are so happy to be joined by our amazing contributors. So I'm joined today by Heather, one of our contributors that published a really beautiful piece in issue 10, Influence. And we're going to dig deeper into what that piece was all about and what it means for her to be published and the core of her message. So welcome, Heather. We're so happy to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It's been a
Yeah.
privilege.
I'm so glad. So, for the people that are listening to this podcast that may not have picked up their issue of issue 10 yet, haven't read your piece, tell us a little bit about what your piece is about.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny to say out loud in that way because my piece is about peace. And really that. So it's kind of set in a bit of a storytelling through some of my background with my business, how through my journey I've experienced burnout and we'll just say mental anguish, and really having to search for peace through chaos. But as someone who is more creative, like I also love chaos. So it's really that the harmony in finding that peace and what that kind of looks like in a sustainable way, because growth is chaos. Different things we all want to bring into our life are chaos. So it's really kind of through looking at my story and my experiences, some of the things that I've done to go after peace.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Like people who have those creative leanings, they want to find peace, they want to find, some kind of consistent mentality, but there is something about that chaos that draws us, that feeds that creative spirit. So finding a balance between those things is crucial for sure. And your piece is called A View from the Porch.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it has a double meaning as well. And we'll definitely get into that a little bit. But how did you come to write this article for issue 10?
So I have been connected with Moore for a few years now. I want to say I met Ari in 2021, just, kind of being out and about. And we worked together a little bit when she was at Big Brothers Big Sisters and really just continue to form relationships. So she actually attended a flower crown party at my office, and
Oh,
just through the continuous conversations and one of the things that she kind of, when she had reached out, and this was honestly extremely validating because I have so much respect and inspiration for her, is she thought about me for this piece about peace, because it's something that I outwardly prioritize.
mm,
I would say that being able to strike some of that balance and harmony, like with work and not work, and how that relates to the creative process, and how that relates to if you are a full-time creative professional, how that relates. So,
right.
those are just things that I always try to be a bit of a evangelist about, because I think it can be, I don't want to say detrimental, but it can be hard. And I think it can be definitely a lonely road if you start going down a path in your career, if you're not prioritizing those things. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of how it came about.
That's something you touch on in the article before Porch came to be. And that's my next question is we'll get to that. But before that, you mentioned that it didn't feel right. You knew that there was something that you needed to do. And then obviously 2020, COVID happened, and it was the perfect opportunity for everybody to kind of evaluate where their lives were at. Are they feeling fulfilled? In these quiet moments when we have to take a step back, do we feel like a peace in our soul? And if we don't, how do we get to it? I think, as devastating as it was, it did give us a chance to look at the big picture a little bit. And I think that's something amazing that you pulled into your articles, how doing that for yourself turned into something so amazing. So the next thing I want to talk about is the view from the porch. You mentioned, so we have this double meaning with the view from the porch being, from your grandparents' house, that serenity that you found on their farm. And we also have the view from the porch being your business and what it became in 2020. So tell us a little bit about that. How did your business kind of change and grow?
So Porch is a marketing communications company, and I'm actually currently redesigning a good amount of different things, which has been, a journey and definitely a resurgence of some of the values of with the rebrand. And so it was kind of timely in the article, and really being able to reinfuse a lot of what of that brand meant, especially because times are very chaotic right now. My business was oriented strategically more for some diversity suppliership. I think I met Ari actually at an indie chamber thing. So I think that it actually is really calling me back to the summer of 2020, because that was constantly about pivoting and being agile, which I think is very much a new way of having to do business. I sense that a lot of the AI stuff that we're doing is an industrial revolution in a way. So that there's a lot of evolution, particularly for my industry, which is pretty tech heavy with the cameras and editing and different things.
Right.
So it's been really exciting to be able to have the foundation of the values of the brand that really allude to the summer on the porch and that creative perspective, while integrating and looking at processes and how fast we can do things and efficiencies, and kind of redesigning a company to really be able to ride the waves of the future, which feel like they're changing every day. So it's very much 2020, where you got to be able to like move and dance and go with it, which I think actually really reinforces a lot of the values that were kind of infused. It is all about that slowing down to find clarity. How do we experience human connection when we feel disconnected? I mean, I think that we actually have learned, and for me, I learned a lot of the business things in 2020 that are really setting me up now for a lot of the systemic changes happening both in my industry and the general environment.
Yeah, I think changes are coming so fast, especially as you mentioned with the introduction of AI into a lot of what we're doing. And I think it's also never been more important to have these outlets, these companies that are working towards keeping us connected, keeping authentic content coming to us of real people doing real things, in a time when AI is getting so good, sometimes you're not really sure. So yeah, I love that that's your mission, and that you're, adapting to a changing worldview and going with the technology. I myself have been kind of fighting against the AI. I think it's pretty scary, but it seems like it's going to be an inevitable.
See, and I will have to say that I'm really excited. Technology is one of the reasons I got to start my business. I remember for those photographers out there, the Canon 5D Mark II came out, and it had video capabilities that were actually stunning for a price that was, probably at least a sixth, like if not a tenth of what it would normally cost. And so that was actually like, I got my first camera of my own my senior year of college. And it was through that kind of like advancement in the tech that I was able to jump into video. And so I think that's a little bit of, I guess I'm also very grateful that I've had over a decade of that kind of full-time entrepreneurial experience, which is, it's a roller coaster that doesn't end. So unless you know how to psychologically get off of it while it keeps going, that's what work is. I think that's what, being able to be an entrepreneur and kind of ride that. So I don't know. I think that's kind of where a lot of the redesign and different things are. I'm excited for it. I always say it's more time to go frolicking in fields of wildflowers, because you can do exactly what you want and automate more of the rest. So
Right. I had someone recently tell me that I think the difference is there's basic work that you can program it to do, like the grunt work, the stuff that nobody really wants to be doing. And then there is the elevated work, like the artistic, the creative, the writing, the feeling that becomes more obvious when it is a computer generated thing. So like let it do the grunt work. Let it do the
Oh
basic
yeah,
stuff behind the
absolutely.
scenes.
Let it do all my grunt work so that I
Right.
can get back to being even more human. I think that's
Yeah.
I think honestly it's been something where the technology is enabling the Porch brand even more so because and that's the goal. I think being able to infuse that, because I look at it, I'm like, man, this could mean more time for like, I think people need to be cooking more. Like I know so many wonderful, fantastic professional friends who kick ass at their careers. But sometimes I'll have friends over for a home cooked meal and I'm like, what is this, college? Like
They got the stove breezers on.
go out to eat at like some of the best restaurants. Like it's not that, it's just something that is it's slow down.
Yeah.
To cook something at home feels, it's got that homier, like settle in and slow down, which I think can be really a challenge when you are ambitious and you want to go after what you want. And like that requires a lot of hustle these days.
It
So
does.
I actually look at it like, dear Lord, we're all turning into like burnt out sheep that like don't know how to like smell the flowers when we're in the fields because we're so tired of working.
Right.
And I think that's where, that's something that I really learned that summer again, and really try to instill more in that practice is, I don't know. I feel like probably a fourth or a third of the professionals I admire have struggled with burnout. And I think that is a reflection that something systemically is broken.
Yeah.
And I think that AI and like some of the technology is maybe actually the ability to come in and help solve some of those problems. Because I think that how much better work, better solutions could we be outputting if everybody was healthy, happy, full of sleep, and had a good time with that slowing down. I feel like that's really where a lot of that clarity comes from.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, but it is something we should work towards.
Well, that's what it is to have the view from the porch. I think that's that constant reminder for me. And one of those things that, like, I know in the creative process, the more you can kind of slow down and get that plan at the beginning, get ownership of multiple people at the beginning, just kind of have that launch, then the rest just is smooth sailing. So it's like that clarity of direction. I mean, how many times have you been on a project where you're like, oh, I don't know what I should be doing or going, or especially if it involves multiple people, the more clarity of direction you have, the more successful it's going to be.
Yeah. Speaking of the creative process, you wrote this piece for the magazine. What was it like for you to write it? Did it come naturally because it's something that you're constantly doing? Was it easy? Did you find yourself writing different drafts?
It felt like a lot of pressure. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself because it's like, this is it's not something that I've mastered in a way. I don't think you can completely master it. I know there are people that have better integrated practices than I am, but I think it's one of those things that um, you know, it's about the practice. It is a practice. And so yeah, I was super nervous. I was like, I mean, I know I do these things. I know I've got it in me. Like I know it's there, but that journey to bring it out can be clunky. And so it was funny because I procrastinated. I was nervous. I let the pressure build up, and then I pretty much wrote it in one draft. I sat down and just like got into the flow, and like it pretty much poured out of me. And then I had a really good time just editing for tightness and clarity and eliminating redundancy. So really just I just emotionally and psychologically tormented myself, and then let it flow out emotionally, and then switched gears to be more of a professional and edit it with discernment. So that's how that was my
That's usually how I do it too.
process.
You got to get it all out in one big thought dump, and then we can figure out what's worth the print.
Pretty much. It's actually one of the reasons I love the thought. I'm like, man, I need one of those AIs. I'm like a performer monologue. I'm like, I could just go and go and go and go and go and then synthesize and give it back to me.
Right. You keep the good stuff.
Yeah.
There is the written portion of the article, but then as people who have purchased or looked at our magazine know there's also a visual component. And I think that your visual component is so perfect for the story that you wrote and the emotions that you're trying to invoke. So tell us a little bit about those photos. Did you choose the ones that ended up being printed?
Yeah. Yep. So, my, as I kind of alluded to, my original background is photojournalism. So that's kind of telling stories through visuals is my first artistic endeavor and profession. So I always love having a camera in hand, and that's just something that really researched up. So I had so much fun taking photos that summer. And then Stacey Abel is actually a photographer friend of mine in town, and she came down and did a photo shoot because the farm had sold. So I wanted to just have a complete, extravagant. I think I wore a gala dress in the woods. And another one run around and fishing and different things. And so it was really kind of her. She came out and we just had fun because I wanted to commemorate it and really like capture the joy and capture everything I felt that summer. And I love photos. I just feel like that's just something that, I just always love to have. I want to like have a house full of photos as I, age and continue to look back on my life with fondness. So yeah, so they're a combination of the ones that she took of me. And then, process for selecting them. I think I just wanted to create a visual environment in which people could immerse themselves in what it felt like to be there. So, really kind of connecting with that nature. And I've gotten some comments of friends of, the one of me running away with my arms up. Like it just was such a sense of freedom and such a sense of peace and serenity. And that's kind of what I wanted to visually demonstrate.
Yeah, I think it was done incredibly well. And looking at those photos, you feel like you have been to the farm, that what that feels like. And I may be a little biased because I grew up on 11 acres, but it just, feels like home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that will do it for this episode of Let's Talk More on Monday. But Heather, thank you so much for joining me and for talking about your experiences writing for issue 10 and about Porch and about your journey to find peace.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chloe. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. And we will see you over on our Patreon, where we're going to dig deeper with Heather about some of those tenets that she mentioned in her article, as well as what she wants people to take with them as they go about their lives. So make sure to join us over on our Patreon. Save a seat with us. We dig deeper with our contributors. You can find some exclusive content, and you're supporting us of reaching our mission of making opportunities reachable for everyone. So we will see you next time we talk more on Monday. Bye, guys.
See ya.